The night air in Toledo carried the weight of expectation, the kind that settles heavy on a young fighter's shoulders before he even steps between the ropes. When Jared Anderson made his walk, the arena erupted in hometown pride. Undefeated, 14 fights, 14 knockouts. A rising American heavyweight with power in both hands and confidence stitched into every stride. The blue lights reflected off his gloves as the crowd chanted his name, but beneath the electricity there was tension. Prospects are built in highlight reels. Contenders are built in fire. Across the ring stood a man who had already held championship gold, a veteran who understood pressure in a way only former title holders can. Charles Martin was no stepping stone. He was a southpaw with a piston-like straight left and years of hard rounds etched into his experience. This wasn't just another showcase. This was a question mark disguised as a main event. Could the young lion handle a veteran who refused to play the script? As the referee called them to center ring, the contrast was visible. Youth and momentum versus patience and knowledge. Anderson's jaw was set. Martin's eyes were calm. The bell hadn't rung yet, but the psychological battle had already begun. One man fought to prove he was the future. The other fought to remind the world he wasn't finished. When the opening bell sounded, the first exchanges were cautious, almost surgical. Anderson, fighting orthodox, extended his jab with purpose, testing distance, measuring the southpaw stance in front of him. Martin's right lead hand hovered, pawing, waiting to create the lane for his signature left. It wasn't reckless aggression, it was a chess match fought at heavyweight speed. Anderson circled left to stay outside the power hand, occasionally switching rhythm to disrupt Martin's timing. The younger man's hand speed was noticeable immediately, sharp combinations, compact hooks, and a right hand that whistled past Martin's guard in the second round. The crowd reacted to every clean connection, each roar amplifying the pressure on both fighters. Yet Martin remained composed. He doubled the jab and targeted the body, digging to the ribs with veteran precision. He wasn't chasing an early knockout, he was investing. Midway through the third, Anderson slipped outside a jab and unleashed a right hand that sent Martin stumbling to the canvas. It wasn't a devastating collapse, but it was official, a knockdown that shifted the energy in the building. Anderson didn't rush recklessly. He stalked behind the jab, mixing stances briefly, hinting at layers beyond raw power. The narrative seemed to tilt toward the hometown hero, but seasoned fighters like Martin don't unravel easily. He rose, reset, and quietly prepared for the long road ahead, knowing heavyweight fights can pivot on a single perfectly timed punch. The pivot came in the fifth, and it arrived without warning. For 4 rounds, Anderson had controlled the rhythm, blending patience with precision. But Martin, patient as a cold spring, finally found the window he had been seeking. A stiff jab snapped Anderson's head back, and before the younger man could reset his feet, the straight left detonated cleanly against his jaw. The sound cut through the arena like a gunshot. Anderson's legs stiffened, betraying him for the first time in his professional career. The crowd gasped in unison as Martin surged forward, sensing vulnerability. Another left crashed through the guard, then another. Anderson pulled straight back, a dangerous habit under fire, and Martin capitalized with veteran ruthlessness. For a brief, heart-pounding stretch, the undefeated prospect was in survival mode. He clinched, buying precious seconds. His eyes cleared as he circled away, gloves high, absorbing the storm. Martin pressed, determined to rewrite the script, but the bell arrived like salvation. As Anderson returned to his corner, the noise inside the arena shifted from celebration to anxious murmurs. This was no longer a showcase, it was a test of resilience. The question had finally been asked: what happens when the rising star is hurt? In the opposite corner, Martin exhaled slowly, confident that momentum had changed hands. The veteran had exposed a crack. Now it was up to Anderson to prove it wasn't a fracture. Round 6 revealed the answer. Anderson rose from his stool not with reckless fury but with discipline. The bravado was gone, replaced by focus. He reestablished the jab immediately, flicking it with renewed intent, using it as both shield and compass. Instead of trading power for power, he controlled range, stepping laterally and forcing Martin to reset before launching the left. It was a subtle adjustment, but a critical one. Anderson began targeting the body in return, digging hooks under Martin's elbows, thudding shots that sapped energy from the veteran's frame. The pace began to tilt again. Martin still fired the straight left, still dangerous, but the snap had dulled slightly. Anderson's youth and conditioning started to surface. He mixed his attack, double jab upstairs, right to the body, left hook on exit, building momentum with calculated aggression. The arena found its voice once more as Anderson's combinations grew sharper. By the 7th and 8th rounds, the younger fighter was dictating exchanges, stepping in with confidence and stepping out before counters could land clean. Martin's mouth hung open as fatigue crept in. Experience had carried him into the storm, but endurance now became the deciding factor. Anderson wasn't chasing a highlight finish anymore. He was constructing a mature performance, 1 round at a time, proving that recovery is as powerful as knockout force. As the fight entered the later rounds, unfamiliar territory unfolded for Anderson. He had never traveled this deep into professional contest. There were no quick finishes here, no early night celebrations. Instead, there was rhythm, breath, and calculated violence. Martin continued to search for one more moment, one more left hand capable of changing everything. And he found flashes, an uppercut inside, a counter left that drew another collective gasp from the crowd. But the consistency belonged to Anderson. His jab became authoritative, snapping Martin's head back repeatedly. He layered combinations with maturity beyond his years, finishing sequences downstairs before pivoting away from danger. The young heavyweight was learning in real time, adapting to adversity under the brightest lights of his career. Sweat sprayed under the overhead lamps as both men exchanged heavy artillery, but the cleaner, sharper work increasingly came from Anderson. The crowd sensed the tide turning definitively. Each landed combination brought them to their feet. Martin's resistance remained admirable, but the rounds slipped away like sand through fingers. Championship composure replaced prospect hype. Anderson's face showed focus, not frustration. He wasn't just surviving a veteran's challenge, he was outgrowing it in front of everyone watching. When the final round began, both men understood the stakes. Martin needed something dramatic. Anderson needed composure. The veteran summoned one last surge, firing his left with determined urgency, and for a fleeting moment the crowd held its breath. But Anderson answered with poise, jab, right hand, hook, measured, controlled, effective. There was no desperation in his movements now, only clarity. As the seconds ticked down, the fight's narrative crystallized. The young contender had faced danger and chosen growth over chaos. The final bell echoed and the tension dissolved into applause. The judges' scorecards confirmed what the later rounds had shown: Anderson by unanimous decision. No highlight reel knockout, no viral clip. Instead, something far more valuable: experience forged in adversity. Martin left the ring with respect intact, having forced the prospect into deep waters and nearly drowned him. Anderson left with something invisible but essential: a deeper understanding of himself. On this night in Toledo, under hometown lights and roaring expectation, Jared Anderson did more than defend his record. He matured, and sometimes in the unforgiving theater of heavyweight boxing, that transformation matters more than any knockout ever could. Fire.